Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Aurum podcast, where we discuss all things regarding the workplace. I'm your host. My name is Anthony Kuria, and I'm so glad that you could take your time to join with us. Before I introduce my other panelists, let me explain. Let me uh, explain what this podcast is all about. The Aurum podcast is hosted by Aurum Consultants, a HR and risk advisory consultancy based here in Nairobi. And we endeavor to help businesses, help executives, help entrepreneurs build winning teams from a HR perspective. And we are so glad that you could join with us. With me today is the usual crew. I have with me the MD of Aurum Consultants, my CHRP, Zipporah Courier. Welcome, Zippy.
Thank you, Anthony. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, viewers from wherever you're watching us from. I'm glad to be here this morning.
Yes, thank you, Zippy. And with us today is the HR specialist. Today she is half across the world, but she's with us. The magic of technology is all truly awesome. The HR specialist, CHRP Martha Tuku. Welcome, Martha.
Thank you, Tony. Good evening, viewers. Good morning, wherever you're watching us from. We welcome you to our podcast today. Thank you very much.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Yes, I'm so glad to have you, Martha. You're even confused to good evening, good morning, good afternoon. It shows you the scale by which we are able to speak to the people across the world. Now, to our viewers, today is our final podcast for the year 2022. And what a year it has been. It has been awesome. This year has been wonderful in terms of us being able to communicate with you, to bring very different, diverse topics regarding the workplace. And we decided to close the year with preparations for the next. Because every time, like right now, we're heading for Christmas. Yes, we're going to feast on those chicken. We're going to feast on the chapatis, on the sodas, on the chicken, on the goats. Various animals will give their lives for this Christmas season. But we are always thinking about what is next. If you're a parent, you're thinking about school fees. You're thinking about my child going to the next grade. If you're a businessman, businesswoman, an entrepreneur, you're an executive, you're thinking about 2023 and the plans that you have for them. If you are employed, beyond thinking whether you still have a job, the question is, how do you do better? Probably you got your performance appraisal for 2022 and you are told you did well, but you could improve. That if you hit this level of grade, your pay scale will increase, or you'll get a promotion. We all plan. If you're a student, you're planning for your next year's itinerary. So all these things are about goal setting and KPIs. And today, as we close 2022, we want to discuss goal setting and key performance indicators, KPIs, for 2023. Now, as the year is quickly coming to an end, and we plan to set yourself up for success in the following year, today we want to explore the methods of quantifying your objectives, tracking progress, and establishing accountability while measuring the results. That's basically what we're discussing. And this discussion will actually continue into the new year. We'll keep looking at different facets of setting goals and KPIs, key performance indicators for 2023. So without further ado, Zippy, let's get into it. Let's get into it. Now, the first thing from a business perspective, from a HR perspective, from a management perspective, when it comes to employees, the question then now becomes, because you have your goals, you've decided we want to hit certain targets in our marketing, we want to hit certain amount of figures in sales. We want to reduce, if it's in accounting, you want to cut our costs, up to a certain percentage. We want to tighten our procurement procedures. We want to do XYZ, different facets of business. That's the work of the executives. But when it comes, but all this is tied up with your employees, because the human personnel factor is the most important. Now, the question is, how do you set employee objectives when you're setting your goals and KPIs? Zippy, probably you could elaborate a bit further on the same.
Thank you, Anthony. It is interesting as we close the year. We are talking about setting goals and KPIs for 2023. And I think it's important for us, even as we look at setting those goals, to first review what we did in 2022. And this is
Mm.
from a place of assuming that you had set your own goals, you had set KPIs, and you have performed the way you have performed, and you need to look back and just see what worked, what didn't work. And even if you did not set those goals, probably you just need to look back and see what worked for you in your business in the year 2022 and what did not work and why did it not work. And I think this would help you even moving forward to know then what kind of goals you need to set. I think one of the things we need to appreciate is employees play a very integral part in helping us achieve our objectives in business. And when you're looking at productivity, for you to maximize on this productivity from your employees and improving performance, you need to be able to deliver business value. You need to be able to, start from a place of engaging your employees and making sure they set what is we call smart objectives. But even before we go to setting smart objectives, of course, we need to look at as a business, do we have our strategic plan? Have we set, a very clear strategy for the business? And assuming that you don't have that, then the first place to start is to make sure, as a business, as a company, you have a strategic plan, you have very clear objectives of what it is you want to achieve. So you have reviewed 2022 and you have seen what worked, what didn't work. Then you need to review your strategic plan and see then how do you align, so that you have success, you have victory in 2023. And based on these objectives of the business, and Martha will tell you, Martha is very big on strategy. She will tell you, I mean, you can't set the KPIs for employees or goals for employees if you've not set the objectives for the business. So we have to start from the top. So if you are a CEO and you're listening to us today, it's not just employees setting goals. I think sometimes we go wrong when we expect employees to perform. We expect results from them, but we are not giving them a very clear direction where the business is going. We are not giving them very clear KPIs of the business so that they can be able to derive their own KPIs that would help them work towards achieving. So I think setting clear objectives for the business is very important, is very critical. And of course, as a business executive, you can't do this alone. You need to bring your team. You need to discuss with your, top managers. You need to have their contribution towards the strategic objectives of the business. Once that is clearly said, then of course, you allow the managers to go and set the departmental KPIs. Of course, they need input from their team members. Again, if you're a manager, if you're a supervisor, you can't just go sit down and say, we have the big picture, we have the organizational objectives, and I'm going to derive this for the department by myself. If you do that, the truth is you will not succeed. Because what happens, people want to be part of the process, because if they're not part of the process, they will not own that process. So involve your team members in coming up with your departmental KPIs. Once those department KPIs are set, which should be aligned to the business KPIs or objectives, then it becomes easier for the employee to set their own objectives, to set their own goals. Now, these goals, again, are derived from what the department needs to achieve, and this now becomes individual goals that each employee needs to work towards. Again, very important to note, when you're creating these KPIs, you need to ask the question, how is this KPI, how is this goal, how is this objective aligning to the business objective? Because you can very easily say, I'm going to do all these things, but you're not thinking back to see how are they positively contributing. And I think that is where the rubber meets the road. We need to see how is it contributing, so that I'm aligned, so that I know as I'm working, I'm working towards achieving a certain objective. If you're looking at if an organization is using, for instance, a balanced scorecard, you need to look at the different things like processes. You need to look at the finance, if you're looking at all these things, you're looking at finance, and probably you are not even in a department that is dealing with finance, and you're wondering, what is my contribution? There's an element you contribute, and you need to go back and see, in terms of the tasks I do every day, what is going to contribute to this objective, then come up with your SMART goals. And I think if you look at it from that perspective, you'll be able to help the organization achieve its objectives. Back to you, Anthony.
Wow. Thank you, Zippy. Thank you. Thank you for that perspective. Indeed, the purpose of goal setting has to start at the very top. You cannot have uh, uh, management requiring employees to give their objectives. For example, if it's, give me your goals and all that, without the employees first understanding, okay, I'm giving you the goals in the context of what? And the context is the overall business objectives, which are decided at the very top and then cascaded down to middle level management, who, as you said, at the department level, still have to engage those that they are leading to show them, okay, have to engage them in order that everyone within a department, within a division, owns the goals of the department, the company, and then they're able to to plug in and now give their own targets as to where they want to go. And I also like the fact that you've said you've got to look back. Yeah? You can't start planning for next year when you have not seen what you did for this year. But before I continue too further, Martha, from your perspective, I'm sure you've done this several times from a corporate and NGO perspective. What's your take about setting employee objectives?
Thanks, Anthony. I'm sorry, my voice is a bit hoarse, but I'll try to get through this. So forgive me all. Maybe how I can start this is by, first of all, I want to agree totally with what Zippy has contributed, but I would want us to revisit some of the comments we made over the time regarding even performance of an organization. We looked at areas that you can have a CEO, especially for SMEs. You can have a CEO who has the objective or the goals of the organization in their mind, and they are not able to write it down. So they have employees who they expect to perform, and he has the vision, and the vision is just running in his mind. And
Yes.
so when you do that, your expectation to your staff is really not justified. And if they don't do what you expect, then you say they are not performing. Yet you are the one who has not downloaded what you need done. So
Yes.
the blueprint must come from the top. And that's why we said, first, you must have a culture, a good culture that will embrace such things as performance review. It will embrace performance management. It will embrace strategic goal setting, and even having a clear strategy written down. Remember, we said you have to put the vision down for you to
Yes.
achieve it. Yeah.
Yes.
So one of the comments that came out strongly initially was the culture or lack of it eats strategy for breakfast. So that's one key. So your culture, you can have a strategy and a good one, but if you have a what I can call than your culture, then that strategy will not be met. So that's one thing that we noted from the beginning. The other thing, we said that your objectives cannot be in your mind only. It needs to come out and be written down as a strategy. And is that a strategy that is going to work as a blueprint for the whole organization? Zippy has said that the strategy needs to be cascaded down to the least possible person. But then if it's not written, it's not possible to cascade it. So it has to
Yes.
be written down. And when you are writing it and you're setting strategy, you need to involve the guys that you're working with, because
Mm-hmm.
you need buy-in. So it can't be your thing anymore. You came up with the organization, but now you need the people to drive for you. You can't be there to drive that organization. So you put it down, and then when you put it down, you have the people working for you. Then those people are the ones who are going to drive it. So they must own it. So you need to train them on the strategy. You need to have every manager pick the part of the strategy that they will run with in their department. And so the motive here, or the objective here, is to ensure that you have set goals that align with the overall strategy. And then you invite each employee to identify their specific goals as far as this strategy is concerned. Zippy has talked about SMART goals. We can never ever overemphasize about setting SMART goals, especially the T in that SMART, timeliness of the goals, so that you don't just keep on doing things and you are not sure what you're doing. And then those goals must be attainable. So you can't just tell Tony, I want 100 clients within 2 days, and maybe Tony is a salesperson somewhere in, those towns in the middle of shags that you don't have a name. So giving him 100 clients doesn't make sense. And then, so they need to be attainable, and each person is able actually to say what they can attain. So you need to make them commit to that, because that's what they will work towards. If you push it through their throats, I can promise you it will not happen. So when we talk about that word SMART, ensure that each part of that word, because it's an acronym, it is emphasized on the goal. Then if you have people in a similar department, let those goals be consistent. Because if you have staggered goals, then how is that department going to achieve those goals? So it's a thin line, but it is very important that you release your people to do the job. So you don't go breathing their neck, because what we learned even earlier, if the idea is to go to town and you are somewhere, let's say you are somewhere like in Pangani and you're going to town, there are so many routes you can take. But the idea is to go to Hilton. So you can take that other route of Forest Road. You can take the route of Pangani that takes you to that big roundabout there. You can take that other route at the back. But if Tony knows that one, it's okay, you let him drive through that road so that he goes and experiences some jams up on Mudurwa. So next time he will think of taking
a different route.
Forest Road.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that some autonomy is important when you are introducing goal setting. Let people own their goals and give them the standards of achieving them, but let them come up with their own thing. Once they do that, they own the goals. And they do it as if they are doing it for themselves. Success is for the whole organization. If one man succeeds, we all succeed. So let them do it and release them to go and achieve. Then the other mechanism you need to check, and we agreed very well, is the check-in mechanism. How do you monitor, evaluate and monitor what is being done? You can't now just release people and go do. No, you need to set tabs within the course of the year. It can be monthly, it can be weekly, it can be 3 months, 6 months. It depends on how you want to do it, but make sure you have a monitoring and evaluation platform where each person comes, you check in how they have done, which goal is working, which goal is not working, What can be added? What can be removed? What are the challenges are you experiencing? Is there a skill need that is needed for Zippy so that she can even do better in this goal? So when you're doing the check-ins, you are able to ask each other those questions. You're able to help them in the challenges because after all, Tony, you are the boss. You are
Yes.
the one accountable. So you are able
Yes.
to give your input. The Zippy, can you try this and we see how it goes? Yeah,
Mm,
Martha,
yes.
maybe you try. Can you try this? You see how it goes. So that is your work as you're coaching your people to deliver, and so that monitoring mechanism is there. And then now at the end there is the evaluation. So
Mm,
this is the goals we set maybe at the beginning of the year.
yes.
So those are the goals we set. So what is the actuals at the end of the year? So you
Mm,
compare that, and you evaluate, and then you are able to, like now most organizations, because it's December, I'm sure those who have this process, they are
mhm,
evaluating now the actuals versus the goal set at the beginning of the year. And then
mhm,
we also say that it's important to put a reward mechanism.
mhm.
Reward mechanism helps in competitive, uh, helps them, it's a healthy competition between the employees. So
Exactly.
you come up with some reward that will help the staff who have done well get a piece of the cake.
Mhm,
And those who don't get, then they know if I do better next year, I'll be rewarded like
mhm,
this. And then now you set again now for the next year, when you are able to sit and see, oh, how did we perform this year? So then you're able to know what goals you're going to set the next year. Remember, every year has its own challenges. There are new
mhm.
entrants into your market. What
Yes.
are your strengths? What are your opportunities? What are your weaknesses? Such things. So every year you need to evaluate that. I'm feeling like I'm going about, and I'm hoping that I put in some points that they can guide, and I will leave Zippy to add some more. Thank you very much.
Wow, Martha, that there, if you're listening right now, Martha has given you a clear rundown how it is done. No wonder she's a HR specialist. And Zippy indeed set the flow running. She set the ball rolling by giving us what do you call it, a base from which to begin with. And I appreciate the comments that are coming in. It looks like this is a, this is a subject that is a pain point in many places. Augustus Kyoko Deleva says a lot of times the companies expects employees to design their own KPIs, but do not disclose the companies. That's interesting. I mean, how do you expect those people to 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 set their own KPIs while failing, you know, while failing to disclose? I mean, companies' KPIs are they are not supposed to be a secret. Mutanu Mwilu says that is so true. The vision never leaves the briefcase, even when the company has ceased to become a briefcase company. Wow, this Zippy and Mother, this looks like it's it's a felt need out there. And at the end of the discussion today, we will give ideas on how we can help that felt need. Now,
Anthony,
Zippy,
if you could just allow us to react to those comments.
yes, go ahead.
Indeed, it's so true, and I've seen this so many times in my experience in consultancy, where you find employers do expect employees to set goals, to set KPIs, and it's not pegged on anything. I have
Mm,
heard so many times employees being told they're not performing. And sometimes you wonder, okay, how are you measuring their non performance? What is it pegged on? Have you
yes.
given them a very clear direction of the expectation? Because giving a job
Mm,
description is not good enough. It's not It's a way of helping the employee know what they're supposed to be doing, but it's not good enough. They need to know, what am I working towards achieving? So I have a JD as an HR. Okay, I know I need to do letters, I know I need to do all these things, but what is the clear objectives towards the business? And I think as a business executives, to be very honest, and I know this is a serious pain point, I know we fail our people. And I think we need to take serious responsibility of
Yes.
setting the pace for the business, for where we want the business to go.
Yes.
Recently I've been in conferences where, we've talked about doubling profits and, doubling sales. And, sometimes you're wondering, how do you even do this? And when you sit back to actually think about it, it's because the business has a very clear strategy. The executive has a very clear objective where the business needs to go. And this objective is not kept in the pocket, it's not in the briefcase, like Mutanua said. Is actually an objective that is shared with the team that needs to drive the agenda. And once the team understands what they need to achieve, let me tell you, it becomes so much easier because the expectations are so clear. They're able to actually take that down to their team members, and their team members know where they need to plug in. So, as business executives, and if you're here today and you're listening to us, I think it's important for you to take responsibility as a business executive. You can't sit back and expect your people to perform. You can't sit back and expect your people to drive the business agenda if you're not in the front seat driving that vehicle. So I think that's my input to those comments, and I think they are very important. If we are listening to each other today, I think we need to go to 2023 with a very clear mindset, with a very clear agenda. One of the things that I've realized are very successful in terms of looking at KPIs. And sometimes as organizations, we come up with a strategic plan. Sometimes those strategic plan you find is a booklet that is 100 pages. The truth is, it's very difficult to achieve anything looking at 100 pages. Someone needs to actually put that together in a one-page document. The first time I heard about one-page strategic plan, I thought, okay, how is that even possible? And let me tell you, it is possible. So you need to get your big document and you need to shrink it to a one-page strategic plan that is very clear, that is very concise, that is very easy for people to understand and for your team to be able to actually work with that document. So again, my giveaway this morning, let's make it into a smaller document, then it will be easy for us to digest.
Aha.
And Zippy, if I can chip in with what you're saying, the addition I wanted to make was that, as I said about culture, so there are some people who don't want objectivity in performance. So they feel like if they break it down the way you're saying, and if you set your targets, and then at the end you're showing how you have performed, then the culture does not allow that. The culture wants to use mouth to appraise people. Oh, Zippy is a very good performer. But if you really ask that person, what has Zippy done for her to be a good performer? And you find those people even that if there's a reward policy, they want to reward Zippy. If they have it in an objective way, maybe Zippy will never be anywhere near to being rewarded because really she may not be a good performer. But because Tony likes Zippy, Tony would want Zippy to be rewarded all the time. So the objectivity of goal setting and praising how Zippy has performed her goals is put aside. And that is because that's the culture of that organization. So it's very important that we put instruments in place that will help drive a performance organization, performance-based organization. If you want to go far, Tony, in your organization, you must embrace things that are objective. You must embrace an objective performance appraisal. You must embrace goal setting. You must embrace having actually a strategy, a written strategy. And you
Yes.
must embrace sharing this strategy with your team so that they can drive it for you. Thank you.
Yes. All right. All right. All right. Now, indeed, this topic is really, it's really getting to the meat and bones. I can see here another comment by Dr. Olive Kamene Tindika, one of our friends. She says one of the major common, I guess, concerns, the major common KPIs in all industries is customer satisfaction. Yet it is very difficult or elusive for employees to actualize it. That's a very important point there. Zippy, what's your take about that?
Wow. That is so true. And when we are looking at again the KPIs, I like referring to the balance scorecard because it's very easy actually to segment the KPIs that need to be achieved by the business. And customer satisfaction is actually one of those KPIs, major KPIs for any business. Remember, when you're in business, the end goal is to serve your customer. The end goal is to make your customer happy. Yet, it's so elusive to actually make your customer happy. But again, what you need to do as a business, you actually need to define what customer service means for your business. What exactly does your customer need? What pain point are you resolving? What are you doing, or what are you going to do that would actually make the customer appreciate the service that you're giving? And I think if you start looking at it from that perspective, I think it becomes a little bit easier. But we need to
Mm,
break it down. We have defined as a business, this is what our customer needs. This is how we envision we will satisfy our customer. So we need to do
mm,
1, 2, 3, 4 as a business. Okay. Now,
mhm,
once we define that as a business, then it starts again cascading down to employees. What does
mm,
each employee need to do at a different department? If you are looking at finance, what does finance need to do to make sure the customer is satisfied? What is their contribution towards that? If you move to, let's say, the administration department, what is their contribution towards customer satisfaction? Some things are the simplest of the simple things. Like, for instance, how do you pick your phone? How do you speak to the customer? How do you respond to the customer query? And probably that is not a function that is going to be performed by everyone. It's a function maybe for a few in the organization. Maybe it's a totally different, maybe it's even the department that does cleaning, for instance. You know, simple things like, the walkways, maybe even the toilets, how clean they are. This is a function of customer satisfaction, and especially if customers are visiting your premises. So you need to actually define it to the individual level and what everyone needs to do to contribute to that customer satisfaction. But again, what I've noticed a lot of times we speak about the bigger word. We say we need
mm,
to have customer satisfaction. We say we need to make sure our customer is served well. But we don't go
mm,
further to define the why and the how. And that needs to be
mm,
very clearly defined. The why we need to serve the customer well, and the how we are going to serve them. And I think once we break it down to the smaller bits, then it becomes easy, and it becomes an easier objective to achieve.
And
mm,
Zippy, let me add that with the customer satisfaction, you need to look at even the change in technology.
mhm,
I mean, we need to invest in technology. So my example is one of these people I had insured with,
mhm.
and they called me that I have to go to their office to sign a form. And I wondered, at this time, I surely. And I quickly moved to a place where I could just go in, log in, and fill in my form, and it's worked on. So
Wow.
you need to go to the market. If
Mm,
what kind of if you're supplying Vaseline,
mhm,
what does the market want? Do they just want Vaseline, or have
mm,
things changed? So you have to go to the market, see what the customer wants, and then come and bring it in. You can't
mm,
just keep producing things like you have done before. You might find
mm,
yourself stuck with dead stock. You
mhm,
the Vaseline my parents used may not be the kind that I want, eh?
Yeah.
And the kind my kid will want is not what I'm going to I'm using. So
Mm,
you have to know which you have to suit your products depending on the user.
mm,
We have learned that most
mm,
of our users these days are young people. Yeah, so you can't tell them to open a box number in the post office
mm,
when they can use, hey, so many things. Some of them I lose track, but minimum an email you get. So
yes.
you customer satisfaction is actually meeting the customer's needs as per today. So maybe something you did yesterday will not work today, and the one
Mm,
you use today may not work tomorrow because technology moves very fast. And that's where I agree with Olive that customer satisfaction is very important. And you need to come to me and or go, let's say, go to your customers and find out their need so that you custom make your products to suit their needs. Thank you very much.
wow, wow. Today it's getting juicier and juicier as we go. Comments are flowing. Thank you, people, for the comments because these are very, very informed comments. One of the things Zippy and Martha I like when I do a podcast is to discuss something that has a live application in the workplace where executives, employees who are here listening to us are thinking, man, you've hit the nail on the head. You've said what ought to be done and what seems to happen on the ground. And what seems to happen on the ground is not seemingly flowing from what is supposedly supposed to be done. And also practical issues that come. And that's why, Martha, we appreciate you because uh, you're able to give us practical applications from what you have seen in the past. Both in a corporate and non-profit setting. Now, uh, we actually, Martha and Zippy, both of you mentioned this. I was about to ask this question, and probably we can just start it up as we draw towards the close. Is how do you track progress? Probably we can now clearly, quickly but clearly explain. Okay, employees have set up their goals. The corporate, at the very top, the KPIs have moved from the briefcase. They have moved from the mind into paper. They have been discussed to everyone, so everybody knows where the company is going in 2023. We have cascaded it down. We have given KPIs to everyone, and now people know at an individual, at a departmental level, at a divisional level, at a corporate level, where our goals are. So, how do you track the progress of achieving these goals? Zippy, let's start with you.
Thank you, Anthony, for that question. It's one thing to set goals and objectives; is something else to actually achieve those objectives. There's
Mm,
no way you will achieve what you don't measure, what you don't track. And one
mm,
of the good ways of making sure you achieve your objectives is to make sure you track progress. And
mm,
achieving an overall objective is a sum total of the different activities that are happening in your organization. What is happening every day will either contribute or will not contribute to achieving that objective. So we need to be very clear about
mm,
what needs to be done and how it needs to be tracked. And I think once we set the bigger objectives, once we set the goals for the employees, sometimes
mm,
they can look so big. And I think, again,
mm,
sometimes this is where sometimes it becomes a little bit difficult, and you're wondering whether I'm going to be able to achieve these objectives.
mm,
But once you set an objective, I think it's important for you to actually break it down because you're setting an objective for a whole year. So
mm.
even as a business, you need to actually break it down to quarters. And that will make
Aha.
it easier even for team members to break down their objectives. So they know quarter one, I need to have achieved, assuming is sales, I need to have achieved this percentage of sales. What does
Yes.
that mean for me in a monthly basis, in a weekly basis, in a daily basis? So you break it down to small, biteable sizes, and that starts making it easier to start working towards achieving your objectives. The other
Mm,
way I think you need to have reasonable deadlines when you're setting these objectives. Because if you're going to be able to track, you need to know, and that's why Mother talked about the SMART goals. Sometimes it sounds like a cliche, but this SMART acronym is so critical and you need to apply it. So when you're setting reasonable deadlines, you need to see, is it achievable? So I need to achieve this by end of January. Is it reasonable? Is it achievable? Then of course there's a time element of it. And when I'm tracking, I'm able to see, okay, it looks like I'm behind schedule, or it looks like I've actually done more than I expected to do. So again, becomes a very critical element of you tracking whether you are able to achieve your goals. The other thing is, of course, you need to review, and Mother has touched on this, you need to review your progress regularly. You need to look at it from a weekly perspective, from a monthly perspective, because if you don't do this, then what happens? You get caught up. There's something we keep on talking about, and I think we've touched a bit about it during this podcast for the last couple of weeks. When you have these objectives you need to achieve, but there's a whirlwind that happens, there's a different activities that happen every day that if you're not careful would sidetrack you from achieving your main objective. So let me look at, for instance, the HR department, because of course that's what we deal with every day. So you have this clear objective of what needs to be done by end of quarter one, but you have broken it down to smaller biteable sizes. Every week I need to have achieved this. Let's look at, for example, maybe it's policies or maybe some processes you need to put in place.
Yes.
You come to the office every day and you find there's another crisis that needs to be sorted out, so you actually spend a whole day doing crisis management or dealing with things that have actually nothing to do with the objective you're supposed to be working towards. So you can see how important it is when you set the deadlines, when you put it in smaller biteable sizes, because even with the middle of disruptions, you can still be able to go and see, I was able to achieve this today. How many hours do I need to put in so that I can be able to achieve this smaller biteable size that would help me achieve the bigger objective? Of course, the other thing is you need to build a schedule. I always encourage, and everyone who has worked with me, you will hear me talking about work plans. If you don't have work plans that would help you, and this is actually what helps you review every regularly. If you don't have clear work plans, you're able to look at it and say, we're supposed to achieve this by this time, and this is what needed to happen. And you realize you have not achieved, then it actually it almost jacks you to realize, oh, I need to work on this because the deadline is way past. So again, building a schedule that you can be able to follow and actually deliberately follow through with it is also very important. And this will also help you be able to track your progress as you go along.
Thank you, thank you. Martha, what's your take regarding tracking progress? I know you had mentioned it earlier, but kindly elaborate a bit more. When now you've set, now you're tracking. What's your perspective?
Yeah, let me add quickly to what ZP has alluded to.
Yes.
So the most important thing is when you have your goals, it's ZP has said about breaking them down. So you're actually out of your goals, you need to have something we call key performance indicators, KPIs. These KPIs should be derived from the goals, and mostly they are not many. I've worked, the organizations I've worked with have kind of a similar kind of annual setup where they set their goals at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
They do their annual reviews at the end of the year. So for me, that has been consistent and it has worked very well, because then when you have your goals at the beginning of the year, what you allow or what you agree to is the key performance indicators. And these key performance indicators, they also have the way you will do them. So
Yes.
it's not just putting indicators, it's the standard expected to perform these indicators.
Yes.
You'll
Yes.
find there will be 3 or 5, but they are actually addressing all the goals that you have, in one. So once you have broken down, like key performance indicators, like Zippy called them, broken down into pieces, those are the ones you must ensure that however busy you are, you will be going to check that
Yes.
you are meeting them, because those are the ones you will be evaluated on. So the key performance indicators help the organization task every employee that by the end of this year, this is what I want to achieve for this organization.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter ZP or HR and the phone calls and the many meetings and the counseling that goes on, these ones must be done, because this is what I'll be evaluated on. And then
Mm.
when you have these key performance indicators, you're not just setting them by yourself. You and
Mm.
your manager must agree that this is what
Mm.
I will achieve. So you
Mm.
sign and the manager signs. And the
Mm.
manager will be evaluating you on this, what you have committed to do. Now,
Mm.
what happens is in most organizations, they have an evaluation mechanism where
Mm.
evaluation, a structured, let me call it structured evaluation, is
Mm.
done at the media or
Mm.
let me call semi-annual, and
Mm.
then a structured review of the performance at the end of the year. But then you will
Mm.
find they put this thing that is called ongoing communication. This ongoing communication should be between you and your manager.
Yes.
And this can be anything, e.g., monthly checkups,
Yes.
Monday breakfasts. There are some managers who just want to touch base with their staff every Monday,
True.
even if it's for
Yes.
10 minutes. Okay, we are here, Tony. Zippy, Martha, you get. And you don't spend more than 10 minutes, but you make sure that you get to understand where the people left on Friday and what they are going to pick up today from this week. So you can have those check-ins, and then you can have a structured one, either in March or in June, depending
Mm.
on how your organization is. But the ongoing communication needs to be there. So that is a really good mechanism of performance. What is it called? MEL, monitoring and evaluation.
Mm.
So and then ongoing feedback, and you can find that when this process is going on, you will also be able to have some personal development for the staff, because where they are stuck, there could be some on-job training that is needed, some training outside to learn a skill or two. So it also helps grow the person even into the
Mm.
job. And then now at the end of the year, then evaluate the actuals versus the set targets. And then you're able
Yes.
to see, why did this one lag behind? What did we lack? So that when you're setting for next year, like now those ones who are setting for January, they should be able to see what was the challenges this year that Tony was not able to meet this goal, and
Mm.
how can
Mm.
we mitigate that challenge so that next year we set him up for
Mm.
success. So
Mhm.
for the very vibrant organizations, you find the motive behind uh, performance tracking is not punitive, but is
Mhm.
progressive, is to grow the business and also to grow the person. Yeah, that's what I would add.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Martha. Indeed, I can see here even Dr. Olive is telling you it is called a daily huddle, like the ones you see footballers, sports people, huddling together. But indeed, what you've described is true. Executives operate. It's good to regularly check in with your teams, even informally. There's something Dr. Olive has said here. A question I want to us to close uh, this session today by answering this question. She's asked, growth as a KPI, should it be for wholly an employee's responsibility, or is this for the CEO? Zippy, what do you think about that?
Wow. Growth as a KPI. I think that is a responsibility of both the
Mm,
CEO and the employee. And I would probably start with the CEO's responsibility because you are the vision bearer of the business. You are the one who knows where this bus needs to go. You're the one who knows how big this vision is and what needs to be done for us to achieve the vision. Okay. Now, once as a CEO, you actually define the bigger picture of how the business needs to grow, then again that becomes a clear KPI for the business. So we need to grow the business this year by this percentage. So let's look, for instance, and say our business, maybe our sales are at 50 million. And we want in 2023 our sales to actually, now we are talking about doubling sales because we realize it's possible. So if you are running a business and you're not doubling your sales, then you need to look at your strategy, you need to look at your KPIs. So we need to make 100 million in 2023. So that's a growth strategy in terms of sales. But of course, it's also growth in terms of infrastructure. And of course, as a business person, you need to define how that looks like. What are the steps that will need to be taken for us to achieve that? Now, let's just define or let's look at the KPI for growing the business from a place of sales. Now, as an executive, you have define this is what we need to achieve. And for us to achieve this, these are the pillars. Maybe there's quite a number of things that need to happen. Maybe you need proper tools. What kind of tools are
mm,
needed by your team members for them to be able to achieve this objective? Do you need probably to increase the number of staffing? Do you need to invest in technology? What is needed to help achieve this objective? Of course,
mm,
once you do all that, then it now needs to go down to the team members. What is the responsibility of every staff member towards this growth KPI? Okay.
mm,
It could be
mm,
probably we are selling one product, which is recruitment. What is my responsibility as an employee to upsell?
mm,
Um, Another product like training. What is my responsibility as an employee? So it needs to be defined down to actually the employee, because the employee has a role to play, because this can only it cannot only be left to the executive. It's a responsibility for everyone, but the executive needs to show the way, the CEO needs to show the direction, then everyone else needs to plug in and do their part to help achieve this objective. And of
mhm,
course, when staff achieve these objectives, again, as CEO, we need to be appreciative. We need to honor that. We need to reward them. We need to recognize the effort that they have put
mm,
towards that. Remember, we are dealing with human beings. And as human beings, again, we have needs, we have basic needs, and some of the basic needs we have is the need of being recognized, the need of, knowing my importance and knowing that what I'm doing, it actually counts. So again, remembering that we need to appreciate this effort is also very critical. Of course, on the
mm.
downside of it, when people are not plugging in and they're not helping achieve this, you have to deal with the
Yes.
non-performance, and again, that's a conversation you can have another day. But the growth strategy, the growth KPI, is a responsibility of both the CEO and the employees.
Mhm, mm. Indeed, indeed, indeed. We thank you for that, Zippy. At least you're able now to clarify to Dr. Olive and any other executive out there that in that at the end of the day, yes, KPIs, the way they say the buck stops here. So the buck stops at the top. So you cannot say I did not achieve because my sales manager or because my purchasing manager or because the so and so our somebody out there, somebody whom you had contracted to do a sales job failed. No, no, no. At the end of the day, the buck stops with you. So you are the CEO, and that's why that business of having KPIs stuck in somebody's head or in somebody's server is so wrong, especially if you're the CEO. Because if the buck stops with you, then you've got executives who are working with you, you've got employees who are working with you, as Martha said, they are working for you. You achieve your objectives as a CEO for the company through your employees. So you have to find a way to communicate it down, and that's where the culture now angles comes in. So that is something that every CEO needs to look at. And if you are an executive out there and you want to understand your responsibility better, You want to know how do I help my employees, achieve their targets. And you're thinking, okay, the comments that were made by the listeners and viewers and the panelists about our, everything being in my mind, I do not communicate well enough. If you are there, we would be happy to support you. We would be doing part of what we do as Aurum consultants is trainings. We do trainings. That's part of our core mandate. And we'll be doing some trainings in the new year. So be on the lookout or reach out to us to help you if you need executive training on issues of goal setting and putting KPIs in place to help your executive team and to how to communicate these down your organization so that everybody is on the same train heading in one direction. Having said that, we really appreciate you for taking your time. Thank you for all the comments that came in. Mr. Augustus Kyoko Deleva, thank you for your comments. Dr. Olive, thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate them. We appreciate you. Mutano Mwilu, thank you for sending in your comments. We really appreciate it. And everyone else who logged in today, we appreciate you for logging in. This was our last podcast for the year 2022, and therefore we would love to wish you all a Merry Christmas. Beyond just wishing you a nice weekend, wishing you a Merry Christmas, which is coming next week, and a Happy New Year. That you take care of yourself, enjoy, but don't overdo it. Remember the reason for the season. Thank you for being part of our online community. We really appreciate you. So remember the reason for the season. It's about Jesus and it's about Him coming to earth to give man hope. So thank you all for your time. We appreciate you. See you next year. Sometime I think we'll post on our social media uh, when we will begin. But until then, Martha, thank you very much for your contribution. We truly appreciate you. Zippy, as usual, thank you for the insights that you give us. And to all the panelists that came this year, we had quite zippy, we had quite a number of watu wa nguvu, very CEOs. We had CEOs, we had business executives, we had business executives from various spheres. And next year, we are looking for an even stronger group of individuals coming in, specialists in various fields, to give us different perspectives of the workplace. Because at the end of the day, our job as our job as the Aurum podcast is to help build winning teams. That is what we are here to do. And we hope that today's podcast and all the other podcasts helped you to go to that direction. Having said that, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Take care.